the best, worst podcast you've ever heard. And now, The Ronnie and Bo Show, brought to you by Prescott Realty.
Welcome to the Ronnie and Bo Show, brought to you by Prescott Realty. Thank you, Prescott Realty, for being our sponsor.
Prescott Realty, 928-499-8700. If you have any real estate questions or needs.
They are such an amazing group of real estate specialists. They're not generalists, they are specialists. And so if you're looking for a custom lot, or maybe you're a first-time home buyer, or looking for an existing home or maybe a new home, those are all different aspects of the same industry.
And you don't have to remember the specialists. They're specialists. They'll help you. So when you call Prescott Realty at 928-499-8700, they'll hook you up with the right person. Thank you, Prescott Realty, for sponsoring the Ronnie and Bo Show. It's the Ronnie and Bo Show with a very funny comedian, Andrew Norelli.
Oh, man.
I'm so glad that we discovered Andrew, and he's so nice to join us today.
Yeah, and when we say we discovered him, we didn't discover him.
No.
Like, he's been around a long time.
No, he's got an agent. We're not his agent. Somebody else discovered him.
Right.
Andrew, let's just knock the trying to be funny stuff off.
We'll leave it to somebody who actually is funny.
Let's just go right to Andrew. Hi, Andrew. How are you, buddy?
Hey, how are you guys?
Doing great.
Nice to be my agent. What percentage do you take?
Well, we only need one.
We'll take less than whatever your current guy is.
Yeah. See,
okay. We can negotiate.
Yeah, Ronnie wants a percentage less than your current guy, and I'll just go right to 1. We'll take 1%. Would you do it right now for 0.5%?
I would think about it.
Awesome. So 0.25% we might get him.
Awesome.
But he's got to think about it for 0.5%.
Can you guys get me booked at any retirement homes?
We can work that out. Whatever you want, Andrew.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Andrew Norelli is a real funny guy, and we want to learn about your background and some of your history and some of your successes. And we also want to promote the fact that you're coming to town, the Phoenix area, the first weekend of October, right?
Yes. And so please come see me, because I have nothing else planned in Phoenix for, probably the next 6 or 9 months.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, take advantage while you're here.
So this is interesting. You're going to be on October 7th. You're going to be at Stir Crazy in Glendale. This is a great comedy club, and it's got a nice presence in the Phoenix area. And then you're also doing a couple of church dates, which is very fascinating. I'm just thrilled that you're doing this stuff.
Yeah. People don't have to. Don't worry. It's not a religious themed show.
Right.
It's just at a church, because the guy who runs the shows is a member of a church, and he's found a niche with that. Yeah. He has kind of his own groups that he promotes to, and the shows work really well. So they become like a little phenomenon.
Who are we talking about?
So they're open to anybody.
That's great.
We're talking about Randy Hausner.
Okay. So
if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media, and I will tell you about any 3 of these shows that are coming up.
So you're on Facebook, I know. Are you on the other Twitter and Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. I was holding out on Instagram. I was being the grumpy old man. I was like, no, I got enough. No, I don't want to look at more pictures of you hiking with your dog. But I did it. And nice. Instagram is, as you know, now you get to see the exact same thing from the same person. You get to see the picture of them working out, doing CrossFit in Facebook, and then the same exact picture on Instagram.
Nice.
That's good.
So it's just part of our world. I accept it. If you want to find me on Instagram or Facebook, it's really easy. It's just under my name, Andrew Norelli.
Awesome.
And feel free to message me, even if we're not friends on there. I can answer questions. I know people get very, they want a lot of details before they come to the show.
Okay.
And that's okay. That's okay. I mean, literally up to the day of the show, they're like, wait, what time is it? What time do I get there? Can I park? What do I wear?
What do I wear?
Yeah. Do you have to get into that? Do you have to get into the wardrobe requests and that sort of thing?
People really do ask me, what do they wear? I feel like it's a comedy show. What do you think I'm going to say? A ball gown? Like, Just show up. It
Just
doesn't matter.
Wear your bikini and get in here.
Oh man!
Right. I mean, when have they been to a comedy show where there was a dress code?
Good point.
That's good. And they can also find you at andrewnorelli.com. That's Andrew and then NORELLI.com. And lots of good stuff there. Andrew, you've been on Late Night with David Letterman, The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. You've been on Jimmy Kimmel even. What are those experiences like?
Those those are great. Obviously, as a comedian, that's what you sort of dream about when you start.
Right.
And you hope that one day you can do it.
Yeah.
Not that it's not the only path to success. There's a lot.
Right.
But it's one that is great for any comedian. They're strange because they're different than doing well in a comedy club.
Yeah.
There's a different rhythm to doing those television sets.
Yeah.
And there's a different physicality because you can't move. You're stationary. Which for me is strange because I'm never stationary.
Right.
And you have to be so exact, and that's strange for me too because I'm not very exact with my wording and the order of my jokes and stuff like that. I always mix it around a lot.
Yeah.
So for me, those are harder.
Yeah.
But of course, they're totally worth it.
Right. Is there a difference in the crowds?
Really exciting.
Yeah.
What's that?
Is there a difference in the crowds, the response? I mean,
Well, sometimes because you don't know how the crowd is going to. I mean, you're assuming the crowd is gonna like you and they're gonna be excited for you to perform in the show. But
right.
Let's face it. They're not there to see you.
Yeah.
They're there to see the actual show and probably whatever big name guest is on the panel.
Right.
So yeah, in a way, you do have to win them over a bit.
Yeah.
And another thing is, it's probably the only stand-up on television or that's in any way video recorded where there is no, there's no sweetening, there's no adding of laughter.
Yeah.
Because,
right.
It airs so quickly after they record it.
Yep.
That first of all, they don't have time to do that.
Right.
So I think people don't realize, like, if you see an HBO special, they don't necessarily add laughter, but they can.
Right.
And they often do because they're going to be editing it anyway.
Right.
There's no editing in a late night set, and that's a special kind of pressure on you, right?
That's for sure.
Because you know that's going to be it. Like, whatever happens to every joke is how it's going to appear.
Yeah. I've only been in the Tonight Show when at NBC when Jay Leno was doing it, and there was a real distance too between that I would imagine is different than a comedy club.
Yes, I think that matters too. I think that makes it harder. That the crowd is actually physically a good 30 feet away from you, or 50 feet maybe. Yeah. I'm bad at estimating feet, but it's not. There is no front row per se, like in a comedy club. Yeah. And, so it really gave me a lot of respect for the comics who did many late night sets, and I'm talking like 9, 10, 12, and all of them were just so. All their sets were so perfect. It really is a special skill, and one that is very difficult.
Yeah.
So Andrew
doesn't mean they're necessarily. I'll stop rambling. What were you going to say?
No. That's great. I'm just listen. So after a David Letterman performance, after a late night performance, help us understand, how do you feel after that? I mean, and does that feeling change? I mean, do you feel that wow, I did real well, or boy, I wish I would have done it that way or anything? Are there any examples?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably every artist immediately goes to what they did wrong.
Right.
But yeah, you also feel good if it went well. It went well, and you're really happy, and you're proud, of course, because it's something that you probably worked hard on, and you know that it's hard to do.
Right.
Did you?
I was just going to say, yeah, I think every artist is always going to figure
Did you have a feeling that it went by real fast, or real slow?
Yeah, kind of. But then again, it is only a 4.5 minute set, so it's going to be much shorter than your regular set anywhere that you're doing one.
So, how did you get into comedy? When did you start? What were some of your early stuff?
I started like a lot of comics. I feel like maybe this is me just guessing, but I think that if comics go to college, they end up starting right after college. And if they don't go to college, they end up starting right after high school.
Okay.
And I was one of those who went to college, so I started right after college.
Okay.
That's cool.
What did you study in college?
Sociology, which is why I did comedy.
Perfect.
That's great.
You're not getting a lot of job offers in sociology. No one's like, oh yeah, we have a sociology firm. We want to hire you. Yeah, it's 6 figures with benefits. Yeah, you go around and you observe people and you write generalizations about them. It was really. I was like most people, right? I was just getting a college degree because my parents basically said,
"That's right,
you have to."
That's right.
There's not even which is fine. I wasn't against going to college, but my parents came from a generation where if you didn't have a college degree, then you flip burgers.
Right.
And if you did have a college degree, then you drove a sports car. You bought a home. You were rich. They had that. They were that generation.
If you didn't have education, you flipped burgers. If you had an education, you ate the burgers.
Exactly. And what's so funny is they didn't realize that it's the next generation where a college degree doesn't do much for you.
Right.
So I ended up moving back home with them anyway.
Yeah.
And just being like, here's me with a college degree. I'm back.
And a debt load.
Why don't you go out and get your master's, Andrew, and get out of the basement?
Oh
man, it was. I almost did get my master's actually.
No, wow.
I was seriously considering applying for that, and I think that I was so not into it that even the application process. That's how I knew I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to fill out the application. That's how you know you're not ready.
Right. That's true.
An easy tip.
That's true.
When that is too much homework to actually write in the application.
Right.
And so that's when I did my first open mic, which was interesting because I was working a day job at the time, and I met another guy, and we both spoke to each other, and we both told each other how much we liked comedy.
Yeah.
And that's when we said, well, let's find an open mic to do. And I wonder if I had never met that guy.
Wow.
If I would never have done comedy.
Yeah.
And that's how strange, that's how strange life can be.
Wow.
That's how many lucky twists can change your life.
When you were
what's that?
When you were first starting out, were there comedians that had kind of influenced you that you watched growing up that shaped you at the beginning, or?
I remember watching Ellen DeGeneres. Since I grew up in the '80s, comedy was huge on TV.
Right.
So I watched a lot of stand-up that you didn't know the people, because that was back when a ton of stand-up was on TV. You didn't have to be famous to be on TV per se.
Yeah.
So a ton of comics I watched, and I had no idea what their names were, but I thought they were hilarious.
Right.
And I watched Ellen DeGeneres. A lot of the comics I liked, I didn't realize how much different their comedy was going to be than mine. Like Ellen DeGeneres, I could never do comedy like her. I wish I could, but I don't have the persona that she has to pull off a lot of the jokes that she pulls off.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that until you actually do comedy for a little bit.
Right,
and then you kind of go, I see. Okay, so the crowd only accepts this type of comedy from me. Okay.
Interesting.
You're sort of, in a way, you're sort of a victim of how the crowd perceives you.
Interesting.
And that has to do with your voice, your inflection, your look, sometimes your age. So anyway, I love George Carlin, right? Even when I was a little kid, I was probably 8,
Yeah.
I totally felt like I got him.
Right.
I felt like I understood everything he was saying. Maybe I didn't, but I felt like I did.
Right.
I love that bit that he did about, it was a famous bit he did about how you pack all your stuff.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Your stuff gets smaller.
Yep.
You remember?
Yes.
Like, your stuff gets smaller. And
Yep.
he's got his crazy George Carlin voice.
Yeah.
You put it in the bag. And the bag is now, And
It's
I
now
just
your
remember
stuff.
Totally understanding what he was saying, even though I was 8 and I had never packed anything from anywhere, and I never traveled anywhere.
Yeah.
But I totally got it, and it made me excited about just about funny ideas.
So I'm gonna So
anyway, I was going to say that my first open mic was funny too because this was pre-internet, so you had to really want it.
Right.
Because we had to look up in the newspaper where the open mic was.
That's amazing.
and then we had, I swear to God, we had to look on a map on how to get there.
Yeah.
So you had to be like a researcher, a librarian, to figure out where an open mic was.
That's changed an awful lot now where computers are everywhere. You got to do a TED Talk on why computers baffle you.
Yeah.
Oh man.
How did that TED Talk come about?
The TED Talk was like a lot of other things in stand-up. It was just from doing stand-up a lot, and when you have a good show, and good things can happen. So there was a TED Talk producer at one of my shows, and he said he loved my piece about computers and asked me if I could turn that into a TED Talk. And I think he looked up my other stuff online to make sure that I was sort of a working comedian and a professional comedian. And that was it. And it went really well, and that was another one where when I recorded that, you obviously record that live. And I said to him, I go, if this doesn't come out right, I would rather just not upload it. Because in comedy, if you cannot hear the audience laughing,
oh yeah, that's horrible.
Then it doesn't work.
Right.
And I said I'd rather just not have it if you don't have the audience mic'd right.
Okay.
But he assured me that they would, and they did. So I really liked the way it turned out. I thought it was really professional, and as a comedian, you don't say that much.
Right. Well, that had to be refreshing for the audiences, too, to get to laugh their way through a TED Talk instead of just be inspired. So that's a win-win.
Yeah. I mean, right. I mean, the crowd was excellent, and sometimes you don't always get that, obviously.
Right.
That's a part of comedy. I know people always wonder, what do you do with the crowd not laughing or it's not going the way you want it to go? And the answer is it's not that big of a deal. I mean, it's just not as fun. That's all.
Right.
If the crowd's not laughing, you're not up there just despondent and depressed and questioning your entire life direction. It's just not as fun. That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, it requires energy and laughter for things to be fun, right? Just like if you're at a heavy metal show, it requires a mosh pit. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, exactly.
So how would you categorize your writing? I mean, how do you do it? Do you sit down at a desk and write? Does it come to you in a shower, driving down the road, jogging, surfing? What is it? How do you categorize that?
I wish that I was one of those people that I walk around and I'm like, oh, look at that. That's a funny joke. Oh, so is that? Oh, this thought popped in my head. But I'm always thinking about, oh no, I have to go to Best Buy, or oh shoot, I have to buy this. I have to go to Trader Joe's. Like I'm always thinking about my errands,
Right.
and so I'm never quite in the moment. So I usually have to sit down at a computer and actually type out some stuff. Like, here's what happened to me today. Or let me think about what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
and then stuff starts to flow out.
That's fascinating to hear that answer.
I know, because I think that some comics do it that way, but I think a lot don't. It just depends, I guess, on your preference. I think some comics are even, I don't know. I know a lot of comics, they sort of think while they're on stage. I do too, but you have to have something. You have to have like a nucleus before you go on stage.
Right.
Right. The direction you're going in, at least.
Yeah. And then do you go work that material in places that are, smaller before, obviously before you get up on, Letterman, for example, when you did that? I mean, you've been working some of that material for a while, I assume?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, when you do TV, hopefully you have ironed that material out, like just right and left.
Yeah.
For a long time.
Right.
That would be only to your benefit.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it take a lot. I know Jerry Seinfeld. He talks quite a bit about the process of comedy. I hope I'm not misquoting him, but I think he said he worked on a Pop-Tart bit for 2 years or something.
Yeah. Jeez.
I mean, and he's one of the best comics of all time, so that can show you how tedious it can be.
Right, the precision of it.
There's definitely other bits or jokes that are just magical, and it's like you do them and they're really good, and that's the way they are for however long you do them.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic when that happens, but it's probably not common. Definitely not if you have a longer bit. If you have a longer bit, it's going to take a long, long time.
Yeah.
So I don't want to put you on the spot here, but do you when you're going through your day, your regular day, and yes, you're a comedian, and that's your line of work, and yes, but when you're just surfing, or when you're going to pick up your dry cleaning, do you have do you have in your mind the best or your most favorite piece of work?
Oh no, not at all. No. I mean, I would say I don't think about like this period. Yeah, I think that.
Are you prouder? Are you more proud of a bit?
Yeah, well, it's strange because I think a lot of your jokes. I'm guessing this is true for every comic. You're completely sick of them, right?
Yeah.
That's just human nature. But it is strange. Some of them you never get sick of. You could do them every single show, every night, and you don't. I think that's kind of rare. That's a small number of bits. But of course, that's why you always have some new stuff. You're gonna try to be working in new stuff, even if it's just like half finished ideas. And yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah. Then between the corporate work that you do, and then television and clubs, do you have a favorite, or what's some of the differences between doing a gig for Microsoft versus being at a club somewhere?
Well, usually a corporate gig. I mean, I do a lot of corporate gigs. I'm considered. I don't like to label clean comics. It sounds strange.
Right.
It sounds like you're doing, and it sounds like a moral thing.
Right.
It's not a moral thing.
Right.
It's not just. I like all comedy. I think it's all equally valuable.
Right.
But I think I started writing more TV appropriate stuff like a long time ago.
Yeah.
Because I was not a clean comic. I had more uncensored topics.
Right.
Earlier in my career, but the first TV set I ever did, I couldn't get a lot of the bits that I had written on it because they weren't TV appropriate. And so that made me go, okay, well, let me write more TV appropriate bits.
Right.
And then those bits ended up being better anyway.
Right.
So I kept writing stuff like that. That's all.
So I've got a friend, Tom Dreesen, who you may or may not know, may be friends with, but and Tom obviously
I don't know him well, but
right, but you're familiar, yeah. So but he comes from a different generation, obviously, and and we were talking a couple of days ago, and he said, he said, and I'm paraphrasing, he said, when you're writing for the Tonight Show, to get on the Tonight Show, you have to write material that Grandma and Grandpa, Mom and Dad, and the children all laugh at, as opposed to, and then he also said, I was at a club trying out some work the other day, and I was upstairs at the comedy club, and two other comics were in there, and they didn't know I was there. And they said, "Oh, Dreesen's here tonight." The first comic said, and the second one said, "Oh, well, he's old school." Old school? What do you mean? Well, he doesn't use the F word. And then the other comedian said, "Well, then what does he use for adjectives?" And Dreesen popped. No, this is true. And then Dreesen popped his head in. He didn't know they were listening. He was there, and he popped in. And he said, "Adjectives." That's what I use. That's a little like what you were talking about, right? I mean, you've got your style, but then if you want to hit a certain audience, you got to write a certain way or perform a certain way, right?
Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. Right, it depends on what your goals are. And then what happened was, I remember doing. So I had more of these like TV appropriate bits, and like I said, they were better bits. That may have just been because I had done comedy longer at that point.
Right.
But anyway, they were sort of better bits anyway. And then I remember doing some corporate gigs, and I realized that the corporate gigs you have to be even safer because even if the bit is carefully worded and okay for TV, that doesn't mean it's okay for a corporate gig because it might have to do with, who knows? It might be a political joke or it might be a joke about with some innuendo of some type.
Right.
So I started writing even more stuff that was more, sort of like Seinfeld, where it was just universal
appeal.
And it was just sort of clever and smart, but it was maybe about something innocuous. It was about like shopping at Trader Joe's or something.
Yeah, right.
And so I started, once again, it wasn't really a purposeful thing of I want to be this type of comic. It was more like, okay, well, I guess I have to write more of these bits if I want to do these particular gigs. It kind of happened organically.
Yeah.
So I think as long, I mean, every comic has to decide what they want to do and what is right for them. So for me, I ended up writing bits that I thought were better for me anyway, and they happened to be quote clean. And yeah, I wouldn't say that's a good path for most comics because it is more restricting.
Right.
It's very restrictive. And the problem is if you have clean bits or you want to do clean gigs, then you can't do any bits that go against that, not even one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's actually not a great way to do comedy, but it's the way that just sort of happened for me, and I kind of went with it. And there's good and bad parts to it.
Well, Andrew,
I take the good with the bad.
I'm just talking off of your appearance with David Letterman. I know you've got a bigger body of work, but your Motel 6 bit, your Sleeping In bit, your Best Buy employee bit, just solid home runs there. And if you don't know who we're talking to, Andrew Norelli, you need to find him on Pandora or Spotify. He's coming to the Phoenix area October 5th,
Andrew,
6th, and 7th.
Andrew, are you crawling into a sleeping bag over there, or what? What's
happening? Is it embarrassing that I set my alarm to have an 11:30 interview with you guys? Is that embarrassing?
Is that what's going on?
I love that.
No, that's good.
I had to do that thing where I cleared my throat and drank water to make sure I wasn't sleepy. It's like, hello.
We didn't wake up at 6 a.m. We're not going to hold it against you, so relax.
Andrew, I know this interview is about you, but I got to share a similar story. I was interviewing for a radio job, and the guy said to me, okay, call me at 11 a.m. and we'll do the interview. And so I slept in until about 10 or 10:30, and I didn't wake up. I didn't get in the shower. I didn't slap myself in the face. I just said, well, I'm going to do it as is. And so I did the interview, and I said, yeah. So anyways, and I answered the question because my throat wasn't cleared like you just described and stuff. And then the guy finished the interview, and then he wrote an email to all of his consultants about the interview. And he accidentally included me in the email.
Ooh.
Oh boy.
And he wrote it to the general manager. He wrote it to the consultant of the station. He wrote it and me. And the guy said, had the interview with Bo the other day. He sounded a little burned out.
Oh boy.
And I said, I wonder if he meant, literally or figuratively.
Yeah, or you just had to wake up before 11.
I thought you were going to say that he thought you had a great radio voice.
Yeah.
Great radio voice. Sexy.
Yeah.
Raspy.
Deep says, "Hey, can we use that as a quote?"
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah,
so
put that on your testimonials page from Andrew.
Yeah,
both got a deep, sexy, raspy voice.
I'll do it, man. That's hilarious.
That's perfect.
Well, he's coming to the Phoenix area October 5th. He's going to be performing at Redemption Church in the Scottsdale area. October 6th, Campbell Community Church. And October 7th, he's going to be at Stir Crazy in Glendale. And you need to see Andrew Norelli. He's one of the funniest, nicest, greatest comedians there is today going. So we really appreciate you being with us today, Andrew. And we are thrilled. We are fans of yours, so we're thrilled for your successes and just so happy for you. And we wish continued success to you.
Have a good one, guys.
All right. Thanks, Andrew.
We'll keep in touch.
Bye.
Thanks, Andrew.
Bye-bye.
Oh, boy. Wasn't that a fun interview?
Oh, man. He's fantastic.
Well, thanks for listening to another episode of the Ronnie and Bo Show, brought to you by Prescott Realty. You can get in touch with them or get more information by going to their website, PrescottRealty.com, or calling them at 928-499-8700.
Thanks for listening to the Ronnie and Bo Show, available on your favorite podcast provider. Please connect with the Ronnie and Bo Show on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and RonnieandBoShow.com. Send comments to RonnieandBoShow@gmail.com. This is your announcer speaking. I'm Shotgun Tom Kelly.